And welcome back to Bayou Time. Some very disturbing news coming out of Terrebonne Parish today. We're joined by Lieutenant Blake Tabor of the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office. And Lieutenant, we appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, very tough situation for sure. Terrebonne Parish, and let's go ahead and bring up the shot of the individual that has been arrested there. You see it right there. Terrebonne Parish Sheriff Tim Sonia announced the arrest of a gray man in connection with an investigation being conducted by Special Victims Unit detectives of the Sheriff's Office. Bobby Stefan Sawir, 24, or Sawar, depending on how you pronounce it, 24 of Gray, was arrested for 2 counts of molestation of a juvenile in connection with the investigation. Joining me now, Lieutenant Tabor, and here we go again. It seems like every couple of years now we're having a story like this. What can you tell us at this point about the arrest? Certainly disturbing, for sure.
Absolutely. And it's becoming far too common, it appears. But on the 28th of September, we received some information from an independent source that identified Mr. Sawir and a juvenile victim that had been involved in some alleged sexual activity. Of course, our Special Victims Unit detectives started to investigate that. They received some information and learned some details during an interview with the victim, who confirmed the abuse was occurring. And then that ultimately led to the arrest of Mr. Sawir.
And not that any underage would be okay or near okay, but from what I'm hearing about the age of the victim, way underage. Is that your determination at this point?
Absolutely.
That's incredible. So when this takes place, and it's not the first time that Terrebonne High has been under the microscope for this kind of thing. How do y'all go through the process of that, as a detective?
I mean, certainly our number one thing is the enforcement of the law, right? And number two, we want to make sure that we are doing things in concert with the victim and making sure that we're keeping the anonymity of the victim, quiet. There's also a component of this where we understand that these are allegations and we have to go through court proceedings to determine his level of guilt, if any. So with that being said, I mean, we want to make sure that the other outside sources, such as the school board, Terrebonne High School, also have, some areas where they don't have to be victimized as well by this. It's my understanding that Terrebonne High School did not make the decisions that Mr. Sawir did.
Right.
They were never brought into question. There was no information that led us to believe that this occurred on school grounds. So again, we want to try to do this as discreetly as possible, especially given, his involvement with the football organization.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because normally the school gets the black eye
Sure.
with it, although the individual is the one that, is the perpetrator, alleged perpetrator. But he admitted to this from what I'm reading in the press release. Is that correct?
He did. So, ultimately we were having some trouble locating him initially. We knew where his whereabouts were going to be on Friday evening. So we made arrangements to make sure that he was taken into custody as discreetly as possible. Detectives did bring him in for an interview, and he did admit to the involvement with the victim.
Yeah. My most important question, how is the victim doing?
They're fine. I believe she's doing well. But again, it's about being quiet.
Yeah. You've been around for a long time, Lieutenant. I've been knowing you for many years. Does it get any easier or less complicated when you hear of a story like this?
It doesn't. I mean, these things are always troubling. And, I was thinking about this on the way here and a lot of discussions with people around the office. And it's come to a point in our society now where I almost feel like parents have to be their own independent detectives, whether that be you trying to save your child from being victimized or you finding out that your child is doing things of a criminal nature, So that's the one point we always try to drive home. You have to be a lot more aware these days than we were, say, 20 years ago or 30 years ago whenever I was, a young person. It's just a sign of the times.
Yeah. Now, I know the sheriff's department encompasses all of the parish, but Terrebonne High is in the city limits. Was he arrested because he was outside of the city limits when the arrest was made?
No, he was arrested because we knew his whereabouts were going to be Terrebonne High School, and that was the culmination of that particular arrest at that time.
Okay, all right, yeah, just want to make sure I ask the question.
Sure,
Because it'll be a little bit confusing
Yep.
to me. Where does it go from here?
So the matter's still under investigation. Obviously, our detectives are exploring all possibilities of additional victims or additional information surfacing because of this. So we're going to do our due diligence, and we're going to make sure that, we investigate this completely and thoroughly, not only for the victim, but for everyone involved. It's important for the family, and it's also important for the suspect.
No doubt, with about 50 seconds left, any reason to believe that we have more than one victim, or has it been set at one victim?
We are not releasing that information at this point. It's still under investigation.
Okay, and we appreciate you coming by, and thank you so much for what you all do. Terrible story. Hate to report on things like this, but I know y'all do a great job with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, the lieutenant of the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant Blake Tabor. We will keep you posted on details as we get them at HTV on the arrest of a Terrebonne faculty member. We'll have more. Don't go away.